All right, good morning, everybody, and welcome to a brand new edition of On to the Next One. We are live on the MMA Fighting YouTube channel. So for those watching live, for those braving the lack of sleep, like myself and my co-host over here, welcome to the show. If you're a wise individual and are listening to or watching the show after the fact, I don't blame you whatsoever. It was a long night at UFC 288. A lot happened, and we're going to talk about it all from a matchmaking perspective. So thank you very much for being with us. I am Mike Heck, and joining me, the man to my right, the co-host, the co-matchmaker, the prince of positivity. Damn it, my best friend. And he's a Boston Celtics fan, apparently.
How
Alexander
dare you?
K. Lee. Hello,
Don't
buddy.
you ever say it to my best friend. My best friend. I let you say anything you want. Don't you ever call me a Boston Celtic fan. I am wearing the hoops of the majestic Celtic FC, who are playing right now against Hearts to try and clinch their 14th title in the last 20 years. It's a real struggle. It's a real struggle for Celtic fans, apparently. I'm a very new Celtic fan, but I've been told it's a painful, arduous process where your team only wins the title like there's a 1 out of every 10 years you don't win the title. That just sounds horrible. So hopefully this is not that year. They have like 6 games to clinch, so really it's almost impossible for them not to win. But I'm joining that struggle. So if I start cheering, guys, you know it's because Celtics scored. But UFC, right? UFC 288. How about that? How about that show?
Yes, how about that show? And we'll get into your reactions and thoughts since I've been talking about it for several hours. But this is how it's going to work. Now, typically we do the show audio only. We read listener submissions from the DMs and from the social media world. We'll try to do that as much as possible. We probably won't get to much today. I also have to check out of this hotel room in like 55 minutes. So we'll probably go until the top of the hour, and then we got to cut her off.
You're Mike Heck. They're not gonna give you a hard out. They'll open the door. They'll see you recording no, and they'll be like, "Oh, sorry, sir." Like, "Oh, sorry, what? Please continue."
Yeah. We were just watching downstairs.
We were just watching. We just wanted to say how much we admire your work.
Oh, stay as long as you'd like. So what we'll do. Is we'll talk about the main card bouts, the matchmaking. If you guys have certain suggestions for the matchups that we're talking about, drop them in the chat as we're going through them ourselves. We'll pull some of the comments up on screen. And then once we get through the wild card pick with whatever time we have left, we are going to just do an all-out melee with all of your selections from fights that we didn't talk about, fights that maybe you disagreed with us and had different suggestions. We'll just pull them up on the screen. We'll react to them in real time, and we will go from there. So, AK, let us start with the main event. Aljamain Sterling defeats Henry Cejudo. The scorecards were kind of wonky and all over the place. In the end, I think the right guy won. I scored it 48-47 in real time for Aljamain Sterling. I saw some people score for Henry Cejudo, more people scoring it for Aljamain Sterling, so this is probably not going to get a robbery review or anything like that. Nope, the head shaking is there. But it seems pretty obvious where we're going, and we knew where the stakes were for the winner of this fight. Sugar Sean O'Malley, who was sitting front row for the fight, comes in to the octagon. Things get a little hectic. Merab Dvalishvili, with the moment of the night, steals Sean O'Malley's jacket, puts it on, jumps on top of the octagon. It was just incredible theater. But Dana White even admitted, probably shouldn't let those two guys square off at the end of the night. But that's where we're going. And if it's up to Dana White, this fight's happening pretty quickly. They're going to turn it around in August. Boston, Massachusetts. What a location for a fight or any fight, if we're being honest. John Anik said on the broadcast, August 19th is the date that the UFC is targeting for their return to Boston. And if Dana White has his druthers, it's going to be Aljamain Sterling versus Sean O'Malley on that card. So this is going no other direction. So your thoughts on Aljo's performance, the scorecards, how did you score it, and are you excited for Aljamain Sterling versus Sean O'Malley?
Yeah, my best friend. We don't even get a point for this one when it eventually gets booked. We don't really need to sing "Friends Forever." It's so obvious. This was the matchup to make. I mean, before Cejudo came back, we want to see him fight Aljo. So, great to see that that's going to happen. As for the fight, so for the fight itself, I wasn't a fan of it being made. I was definitely intrigued. When it was booked, and I'm like, oh, this will be a cool contest, and it was. This was high level martial arts. It's not one of the most exciting title fights you'll ever see from just a pure action standpoint, but I thought there was a lot of tension. I thought both guys showed a lot of skill. Henry Cejudo looked really, really good after a 3-year layoff. Not that we should be surprised. He's like one of the best all around combat sports athletes of all time. So even though, again, like I still hated him getting the title shot, even after seeing I never, it was never about his possible performance. I never, excuse me, I never wanted, someone else. Jeez Louise.
It's all that cheering for the Boston Celtics.
Stop that. You stop that right now. Stop that right now. I never questioned the title shot based on Cejudo's ability. Okay, we all know Cejudo has still been involved in martial arts, coaching, training. I sincerely doubted that he would come back and fight anyone, whether Aljamain Sterling or anyone in the top 5, and just get like blown out. Very unlikely. He's 36, but again, the time off, you can always argue that that's good for a fighter to be able to willingly take that time off, to retire on their own terms, to be able to take that physical, mental rest and come back. And I think you did see a lot of that. Did he suffer from being away? Sure. I totally entertain the argument if this fight happened 3 years ago. 1, Cejudo would have been pretty favored going in, and 2, probably would have had enough to make it an even more competitive fight and possibly take a more convincing decision. I have no problem with people scoring the fight for him, because you would have gone 2, 5, and I think 3. I want to say 3 was the other one that was in dispute. I think 1 and 4 were all 3 judges agreed for Aljo, and the only one that was unanimous for Cejudo was 2. If I'm mistaken, I'm not looking at the official scorecard right now, but something to that.
You're right.
Yeah, something to that effect. So yeah, Cejudo did great. I thought it was a pretty good win for Sterling. I think Cejudo, even though he got some takedowns, didn't get quite enough offense with the striking exchanges were pretty even, but I thought Sterling was landing the bigger shots. But again, a 48-47 score for Cejudo, which one of the judges gave, nothing wrong with that. Nothing wrong with that. So that's why, Mike, I've sort of put up the poll there of, I just want to put up, should Henry Cejudo continue fighting after UFC 288? I don't think he will. I said before, he was coming back to win. He was coming back to set up a fight with Alexander Volkanovski. This does not mean he can't get that fight. The UFC really likes him. Maybe he does just jump up to 145 and then has to fight a top 5, top 10 featherweight. And if he wins, then the UFC would be happy to have him fight Volkanovski. But I think with the amount of work he put in, and again, I'm sure he'll look back on the tape and be pretty proud of his performance, even though he lost. He kept saying last night, if you're not first, you're last, and that's good. That's a good mentality to have. If you want to be a champion, which he's been multiple times. But I also think he's got a family, he has money, he doesn't need to fight. I think he proved a lot to himself again that he could still compete. So again, I don't know if you made a pick for Cejudo, but I'm thinking that he doesn't fight again after this. I'm not sure what your read on the situation is.
It's kind of how I viewed this fight, 50-50. I don't know. There were certain things about that post-fight press conference that stood out to me. Jed called it like kind of a bummer because he was just like so down on himself, and he was like really accepting what happened, and he wanted members of the media to be like, I won, right? Like, tell me I won. And it's just a weird thing for Cejudo to come back and put it all on the line and return after that 3-year layoff with his legacy set the way that it was, and the accolades and the resume that he has put together. And to see a guy who is so competitive just come to terms with it in front of the world, like in those moments, just really fascinating to watch. I don't know if he comes back. If he does 145, I would go all in on the Max Holloway fight if I were him, even though I think that's a horrible matchup for him. I think Max Holloway just wins that fight in pretty dominant fashion. But if he wants to stay at 135, if he goes home and talks to his wife and they go on their vacation and like a couple weeks later they return and Henry's like, yeah, I'm coming back. There it is right there. He seemed to get a little more uppity on the mention of Merab Dvalishvili, and especially if Aljamain Sterling beats Sean O'Malley, which I think a lot of people are going to favor him to do. They may not be rooting for Aljamain Sterling to win that fight, but I think most people breaking down the matchup and making an actual pick on it are going to pick Aljamain Sterling to win that fight. Unless I see something just insane in the build to that fight, I will be picking Aljamain Sterling as well. if Cejudo goes in there and beats Merab Dvalishvili and Aljo wins and goes up to 145, guess who's going to get thrown in for a vacant title fight? It's got to be Henry Cejudo. So I don't think the door is completely slammed shut. I don't think he ever fights Aljamain Sterling again. I think that ship has sailed. But to say he has no chance of getting back to a title fight at 135, I think he does have a chance. But he's going to have to beat. I think Merab would be a good challenge for him to come back to. It would be a really interesting styles clash. But I don't know, man.
Yeah. And yeah, it's like it does feel like a lot of it is in his court. I think the UFC would be happy to have Henry Cejudo keep competing. Again, they were happy to give him the title shot. I think there were other people who could have, again, we said O'Malley seemed to have been the logical option, but look, it looks like they're going to get that fight anyway. So if you're the UFC, no regrets, right? No regrets. And they would have been happy to pair up O'Malley with Cejudo too. So this wasn't a situation where it's like they needed Aljo to win. They would have been, whoever was winning tonight was going to get O'Malley next. And so in that sense, the booking, as much as I complained about Cejudo getting the shot, didn't hurt them. Probably didn't hurt the division in the long run. Again, there's some other bantamweights that, are kind of having to knock each other off to stay in the contender line. That's the nature of the business. That's the nature of a deep division. Again, I'd rather would have seen someone get a fresh, one of these fresh challengers get in there, but it worked out. And like I said, I thought it was a good main event. It was a good main event. Can't complain. And sorry, Mike, just to quickly answer, you did ask about my thoughts on Sterling and O'Malley. Yeah, I'm all in on it, man. I think it's the right way to go. Love the matchup. Sterling's gonna be a big favorite. We're gonna once again, Mike. We're gonna run the same storyline. I feel like we're running ahead of all of his title defenses. Like, is this the fight, Mike? Is this the fight where Sterling gets universal respect? But he'll be in Boston. I know you guys from the New England area are fond of your O'Malleys in the area, so I've heard. And so he's gonna get booed like hell. It again almost feels like a situation where, if he wins a competitive fight, it's like, oh man, he was a huge favorite going in. How did he not just like submit O'Malley in 2 minutes? And if he submits O'Malley in 2 minutes, it's like, oh, well, O'Malley can't grapple, or is a bad wrestler, so it's Sterling submitted in 2 minutes. I don't know. I at this point, I'm not sure what Sterling can do to become a beloved champion like a George St. Pierre, or even like a hugely respected champion like a Dominic Cruz in his own division. Like, how can he become number one? I don't know, because the names on his resume are pretty good. But something about his personality rubs people the wrong way. His fights are always just not quite that dominant performance he needs. You feel like you want, except for that Corey Sandhagen win, you just don't see him get that dominant championship win, which is what really takes, the most famous UFC champions to the next level. So I'm not sure what he can do, but maybe this is his lot in life, Mike. Maybe this is he is one of the strangest champions,
Yeah, this fight's gonna be big. It's gonna be huge. It's gonna be massive. It's gonna be way bigger than this one, if we're being honest. No disrespect to Henry Cejudo, but Sean O'Malley's the biggest star in this division. It's the biggest money fight at 135 right now. The only other thing that could have been different is if somehow we got Cheeto Vera versus Sean O'Malley 2 for a vacant title. That'd have been the only other thing that would have been bigger than this. But he gets a big bag of money now, and he's in a good spot. And even if he wins, people are going to say, well, O'Malley was never that good to begin with. So I think, honestly, for people to change their tune, he's going to have to whoop O'Malley and then find a way to fight Volkanovski and beat him somehow. And then it's just like, all right, maybe that'll do it. I don't know. But good win for Aljamain Sterling. I enjoyed the fight. I watched it again this morning. It's a good rewatch, too. It's a good little chess match. It was a lot of fun. So Sterling gets it done. We'll see what happens with Henry Cejudo. Belal Muhammad, AK, what a performance. The fight kind of went the way I thought it was going to go, where Belal they were going to be competitive a little bit early, and then Belal was just going to pull away as the fight went on. Clearly, Gilbert Burns had some arm issues. I don't know if it was something that happened in the middle of the fight or something that he entered the octagon with, which I saw some people saying, why would he take this fight with an injury? People in the media who would probably be more in the know about this than I would. And if that's the case, how ironic is that, when all the talk heading in was, there's the ankle gates, Belal Muhammad, and he moved around great, looked good, and he dominated Gilbert Burns. Biggest win of his career. And according to Dana White and all the pre-fight build, Belal Muhammad's next fight is going to be for a UFC. It's going to be for the UFC welterweight title. But I don't think we're all convinced that that is the case. It should be the case, 100%. But is that the case for you, AK? Are you going to say in a live microphone right now that Belal Muhammad's next fight is going to be for the welterweight title?
Yes, I will. Yes, I will. For the sake of positivity and to speak it into existence, Belal Muhammad's next fight will be for the welterweight title. So I will go on record and say it. Mike, he was so giddy at the post-fight press conference. He was so happy to get a big win over a guy like Gilbert Burns, someone who I'm sure he respects and who has been entrenched in that top 5. Like if anyone, I imagine Belal was, at top 5, like right number 5 for a lot of people, maybe going into this fight. And if he wasn't, now he is. He's clearly a top 5 welterweight. Again, maybe he has been for a long time. He just hasn't been getting his due. But he was so giddy. He was so happy, like you said, that Dana White said it. So I don't want to rain on that parade because it just makes sense. Either, again, he fights the winner of Edwards Covington, which is a bit of a tough wait though, because that fight is not even booked yet. And then whenever that's done, who knows how much longer till the winner of that fight wants to fight again. Colby hasn't been the most active guy. Again, there's reasons for that, but he's also at the stage of his career where he can pick and choose. And I don't know if he's going to want to build up a fight with Belal if he beats Leon Edwards. He should. It's a great natural rivalry, and Colby's usually pretty good at acknowledging those. But again, there's a chance I don't know, vies for some sort of weird super fight. Give me the Chandler McGregor winner or some crap like that. I could totally see Covington saying that. I could see Leon Edwards saying that too. So this is where the question marks come up for Belal. But yeah, if it's all fair, Belal should hopefully be able to just sit on his butt, wait for the fight to happen, and wait for the call to come to get the winner. And at worst, he is the backup for that fight. If something happens to that fight, ahead of time, like either Edwards or Colby Covington can't compete, Belal is the first call to come in as a replacement, either to fight Leon, for the title, or to fight Colby for an interim title. He's in a great spot. Strong performance. I saw some people saying it was like, it wasn't the most exciting fight, whatever. But listen, that's not Belal's fault. Belal does what he does to win. And again, if you're fighting Gilbert Burns, you're not going in there and swinging hammer and tongs. That's the only way he was going to lose that fight. I think most people predicted either Muhammad by decision or Burns finish in the first or second round if you're picking Burns. So it went to the cards. We got Belal win. Mike, I'm optimistic. Within the next 12 months, he'll be fighting for some form of gold.
I'm kind of with you. Like, I just want to put the positive juju out there that he does fight for the belt next. But you mentioned the name. You mentioned probably the one name that could cause a wrinkle to this, and it's Conor McGregor. It's Conor McGregor, because that season of The Ultimate Fighter is going to come out. People are going to go bananas for it. Dana just can't stop talking about it. And, from people that I've spoken to kind of in the know about it, like, it's going to be a fun watch. And the amount of momentum that McGregor Chandler fight's going to have throughout that season, and then when it's over, is going to be at a sky high. Now it's just a matter of when that fight happens. If they do Leon versus Colby in October and they book McGregor versus Chandler in December, if I'm Belal Muhammad, I'm making sure that I get a title shot like in January or February. Like, make sure that fight is like on the books, because if Conor goes out there and melts Michael Chandler and calls for a title shot, he's probably going to get it if the timing lines up. So if he comes out of that fight unscathed with Chandler and can turn right back around February or March, Conor's going to get that fight against either Leon Edwards or Colby Covington. It's just, especially with Conor, he's only got 2 fights left in his deal. So Conor probably ain't signing an extension until that's over. If he becomes a 3-division champion and enters free agency, holy shit, that'd be like unprecedented. We'll never see anything like that again. So, but I'm gonna play the optimism card, even though I'm a little hesitant to do so. Belal Muhammad's next fight should be for the title. And if they go to Abu Dhabi and Colby's kind of a pain to deal with, the UFC should just say, all right, we're moving on, and just give Belal the shot. Because if they do it in Abu Dhabi, they do Islam versus either Dariush or Dustin Poirier in the main event, and then you do Belal Muhammad fighting for the welterweight title in the co-main event. That is going to be huge for that area, and fantastic. Belal will look like a massive star getting that title shot. So we'll see what happens. Great performance for Belal Muhammad. Now for Gilbert Burns, AK, I kind of feel, and I don't know the relationship. I know that this individual has trained at Kill Cliff and does training there, but I don't think he's like a full-fledged member of the squad. I don't know what the relationship is. I don't think it really matters here. I feel like Gilbert Burns, when he heals up, is going to have to fight Shavkat Rakhmonov, AK. Yep. He's going to have to fight Shavkat Rakhmonov.
Yeah. Yes. We all thought that when Dana White made the Colby Covington, is definitely going to get the next title shot at Leon announcement, that Belal was getting screwed. And then shortly after we heard, and now Belal has to fight Shavkat Rakhmonov. So it's weird. It's weird to say, because like I said, I have so much respect for Gilbert Burns, but I guess at this point, Shavkat is the boogeyman. Not counting Khamzat, because we don't know if Khamzat is even competing at 170 anymore. Shavkat is the new boogeyman of the division. And the loser of this fight, that's kind of the consequence, is that they had to fight Shavkat. And again, if you're Gilbert, you're all for it. Like I said, he stepped in there with Khamzat. He went 3 rounds just swinging flames with Khamzat. So he has no problem testing himself against Shavkat Rakhmonov. Again, super deadly guy all around. Great fight. That's probably the right way to go. And I'm sure, again, like you're right, as long as they're not like, they didn't become super buddy, having trained at the same place, I don't see why that matchup can't happen, Mike.
Yeah, that's got to be it. Unless they do Shavkat versus, because Jed brought up, like, if they do Shavkat versus Kamaru Usman and Shavkat wins that fight, maybe Shavkat jumps Belal Muhammad. I don't think that's the case. And I also don't think Kamaru Usman's going to like jump right into a fight with Shavkat. Khamzat's a different animal because of where he's at right now. Like, Shavkat to the hardcore fan is a problem, and he's got to fight for a belt, might even win it. But Khamzat is just if he's not a star, he's right there, much further ahead in that department than Shavkat is. So I don't know if the risk reward is quite there from a prize fighting perspective for Kamaru Usman, like the Khamzat Chimaev fight will be. So we'll see what happens with Gilbert Burns. Hopefully he heals up nicely. Obviously handled the loss with class. Just posted on social media a picture with Belal Muhammad wishing him the best and to go win that title. So let's move on. Let us move on to another obvious one. At least it better be, AK. Xiaonan melts Jessica Andrade in the first round. That was her first finish in the UFC, and she's had a pretty good run. And she just rinses Jessica Andrade. What a performance. She looked incredible. She kind of had Jessica Andrade just swinging and missing, and she used her range really well and just clocks her with an overhand right. Killer instinct, finishes her in the first round. The UFC gets an absolute layup on their hands. They got to give her the title fight, right? Like, I wasn't really sure. Like, to me, if Xiaonan was going to win, she was going to win a pretty competitive decision. That didn't happen here. She went out there and just kaboom, got her out of there. You got to do this fight now, right? We got to do Zhang Weili versus Xiaonan for the title.
Like, this is kind of a boring episode because, I feel like the top 3 fights gave us very logical championship contenders. Again, logical is maybe a word we should add to, deserved and fair as far as being on the banned list when discussing combat sports. But there's money to be made here. Xiaonan and Zhang Weili are listen, they're both from China, but they have spoken many times. Or I know Yan has. I'm not sure how much Zhang has, but Yan has spoken many times about the possibility of fighting Zhang Weili, what an honor it would be. And of course, if they could make the fight happen in China, I mean, that's just dollars upon dollars upon dollars. The MMA in China is still like, obviously with the UFC, with Zhang Weili and with some of the other fighters from there, it's still like developing as far as popularity goes. It's not like, it is still not the old, conception of that China is a place that still has, more respect for and sort of praise for the traditional martial arts like Kung Fu and, things like that is true. It's true. They still, that's why there's that huge uproar with that guy going around, Bloody Elbow. There's a lot of stories in the guy going around, the MMA fighter, just kind of go around beating up like old school martial arts practitioners. That was like, that made a lot of people mad over there. And understandably so. But a fight like Zhang Weili versus Yan Xiaonan could do a lot to, like, that could be a pivotal moment in really establishing the popularity of MMA in China. Listen, Zhang Weili, super exciting fighter, just a specimen just a model for someone that you would want representing your country. I think she just looks so fantastic. And then Xiaonan is really hitting her stride, man. I thought she had a chance against Andrade. I picked Andrade, and I did not predict a Yan knockout. I thought she could sort of do like a Joanna Jacek type of thing, kind of outwork her, outstrike her. That would not have surprised me. Just smoking a wild, reckless Jessica Andrade really caught me off guard. I'm a little disappointed in Andrade. I think she did not respect the striking of Jan enough. I don't think that's a hot take. Again, anyone who saw the finish is like, what was Andrade doing? So, but that doesn't matter. Jan got the win, big knockout, exactly the kind of statement you need to make if you are talking about a title shot beforehand, and then you finish a 2-division threat. I think one of the best female fighters of all time, future Hall of Famer Jessica Andrade. This is your moment. She should get the shot. Rose Namajunas, if you're out there, you're gonna listen. You can get that Zhang Weili title fight anytime you want. You've beaten her twice, but I keep saying this every time I mention Rose. She's out there. She's chilling. If she doesn't want to fight right now, or she's planning on changing weight classes, good for her. Good for her. She's done enough at 115. She's done enough in fighting in general. If she just wants to chill out and let people fight. But I think the moment is past for now for her to get that third Zhang fight, possibly a third win over Zhang. I think she has to move out of the way, and I think Jan just slides right in there, and you get a massive fight. That's, if it happens anywhere, it'll be a big fight. But if they can get it happening in China, that would be awesome.
Yeah, and now we could do Rose versus Jessica Andrade 3. Let's just do it. Could be at 115, can be at 125. If Rose wins, the UFC can give her a title shot if that's what they want to do. But Rose better not be getting the title shot now. It better not happen.
That would be so weird. And then Jan has to just take some other random, like, what? That would be so strange.
Yeah. Now we go to the most fun fight on the card. Movsar Evloev, a -900 favorite, heading into his fight with newcomer Diego Lopes. I did not expect to have as much fun as I had watching that fight. Diego Lopes had Movsar Evloev in some hairy positions, but Evloev just tough as hell, man. Guy is so good. He's so durable. Diego Lopez's stock rose immensely. And AK, I'm going to do something here. Some history, if you will. And it just kind of works out. I'm going to matchmake for both of these guys. Diego Lopes talked to Dana White after. Dana was going to give him his win bonus anyways. And I'm going to give him a matchup here. Diego Lopes is going to fight Charles Jourdain next. That's the fight I want to see. I want to see those two guys fight.
How
so
convenient.
That's what I'm going with there. So I'm knocking 2 off the bat here. For Movsar Evloev, I'm giving this man a step up in competition. It's not Bryce Mitchell. I'm going higher. I'm going higher than that. If Ilia Topuria gets to fight Josh Emmett, Movsar Evloev gets to fight Arnold Allen. That's what I want. I want to give this man a step up in competition. I want to see it. I want to see this fight. It may not happen, but if we're going to get to Movsar versus Ilia, which is the fight we really want to see, that's the way we do it, and we get there as quick as possible. So Movsar versus Arnold Allen. I don't know if Arnold's going to be ready to return by July, maybe sometime this summer, early fall. Let's go. That's the one I want to see.
Mike, I think we need to cue up the band.
Again?
I think we need to cue up the band for real this time. I don't think this was an obvious pick.
No. 1, 2, 3. Friends forever. Nice, dude. There we go.
That was the best. I think, you know what? Like you said, I think I'm jumping a little too early. I waited for you. Arnold Allen. Yeah, Arnold Allen. I had to use process of elimination here. I will say it didn't jump out at me right away. Just going like sort of from the top of the rankings and down. Max Holloway. Let's not do the Arnold Allen thing again, where we throw in a potential title challenger with Max Holloway and then make them take 2 steps back because Max Holloway. I'm not saying Evloev can't beat him. Not saying Arnold Allen didn't have a chance to beat him, but Max Holloway is just that damn good. So why risk it? Sure, he fights Evloev, he beats Evloev. Maybe we get him in Volkanovski 3, but Volkanovski just doesn't seem to want that matchup, and why should he? Did I say 3? 4? 4? 3? How many times they fought, Mike? How many times Max Holloway and Volkanovski fought? 3 times, right?
3 times.
3 times. Sorry. 4. I'm sorry. Holloway and Volkanovski 4. Korean Zombie down there. No, that would be a promotional malpractice if they put in Evloev and Zombie. That's just, if I see that happen, I will leave MMA. I will tell you right now. If I see that even targeted, I will leave MMA. Josh Emmett versus Elio Topuria winner. I do like the idea, Mike, of him eventually fighting Topuria down the road. I do wonder if Topuria wins, if he might just angle for a title shot because he's on a good run. At his resume, I know he doesn't have the names, it would feel like. But again, if Volkanovski is just sticking around at 145, he's going to need a challenger. I feel like Topuria might get it. And he can just say, well, I beat, if he beats Josh Emmett, I just beat a guy who fought for the interim title. Why can't I get a title shot next? It's possible. And then Calvin Kattar, I have just above Evloev right now. That fight just doesn't make sense right now. I could see it down the road, but it doesn't make sense. So yeah, I settled on Arnold Allen. Really, both him and Evloev should be kind of hunting for that Ortega fight. But I get the sense with Ortega, he's in no rush to come back from his injury. Why should he be? Especially to come back and say, oh, your first fight from injury, you're fighting Arnold Allen, or you're fighting Movsar Evloev. Why would he do that? So Ortega, I just kind of removed from the equation for now. And Mike, that's how we end up friends forever pick with Arnold Allen. So I like it. Yeah,
and Giga Chikadze has been running around doing a bunch of interviews, spoke with our own Damon Martin, and said that the UFC is discussing a fight between Giga Chikadze and Brian Ortega, which I don't really love that fight for Giga, if we're being honest. But, I mean, look, if you're Giga and they offer you a guy like Brian Ortega, you got to take that. So, do you have what's your pick for Charles Jourdain? Gets the win over Kron Gracie. It's not a fight any of us are going to go back and watch again. I don't really blame Charles Jourdain for that, but I think Kron Gracie's UFC run probably coming to an end at this point. Dana White was not overly thrilled with Kron Gracie's performance, especially after the 4-year layoff. Didn't seem like a ton of evolution there, but Charles Jourdain back in the win column. What do you want to see for your fellow Canadian?
Yeah. Charles is such a, look, I'll be honest, straight up. I have no gauge for how good Charles Jourdain could be. We're 10, 11 fights into his UFC career so far. And I don't know. I guess based on the results, you could say what his ceiling is, but it feels like a guy who at times underperforms or fights to the level of his opponent. So that's both a good thing and a bad thing. Though he hasn't quite been able to step up when the opportunity has come calling. So I want to give him another chance to step up. Again, he just hasn't beaten a top 25, top 30 guy. That's what kind of puts him in this weird position. Very cool of him to get this main card pay-per-view opener, kind of off the name of his opponent. But so I went with Billy Quarantillo for now. Again, Billy's coming off a loss. I consider Billy a pretty solid top 30, top 25 guy. Jourdain is not there yet. This is his chance again to jump in there. Maybe he finally breaks through. But there's a lot of ways you go with it. Because again, the Kron matchup in the first place was so strange. Even going into it, I had no idea where Win would put Jourdain, and I'm kind of just as confused after, given how the fight actually unfolded.
Okay, so we did talk about this on the post-fight show. Shaheen brought this up. It was brought up by Dave here. If Kron is about to have one more fight, what do you think? It's right there.
This is my wild card pick. So Dave Sandine, 1, 2, 3, 4, friends forever. Yes, we're hopefully he got the timing there. Yeah, if Kron decides to stick around, if the UFC wants Kron to stick around, that's just a fun way to do it. And before people say, well, why don't they just do a grappling competition instead? Doesn't that make more sense? And because no, Mike, this is one situation where I want to see the martial arts mixed. I want the possibility. Of course, you want to see them grapple. You want to see some fun scrambles. You want to see them eventually get into a 50-50 position and see if Kron Gracie can deal with the master of that position. But I also want the possibility of I need some ground and pound. I want the possibility of some crappy kickboxing. So I'm just throwing a haymaker for no reason. I'm against the mixing of the martial arts, except when the mixing of the martial arts is likely to result in something super dumb. So, Kron, please stick around. UFC, please keep him around. Ryan Hall, get healthy. This is the fight to make. That's my wildcard pick.
Someone said earlier that the fight to make was Movsar Evloev versus Dan Hooker. That made more sense than Arnold Allen. But Dan Hooker's got a fight booked with Jalen Turner, and he's a lightweight. I know he fought at 145 in his most recent fight, or a couple fights ago against Arnold Allen, and that did not go well. The weight cut took a lot of toll on him, and I don't think he's going back to 145 to fight Movsar Evloev. So just wanted to throw that out there. So that was your wild card selection. Didn't mean to spoil it like that. My apologies. I mean, this is such an easy wild card pick, AK. Such an easy wild card pick. It's Parker Porter versus Sergey Pavlovich. The winner gets John Jones, 100%.
Finally.
Yeah, finally. So maybe we get It's
Braxton Smith. I bigged him up a lot. Listen, I had a lot of people telling me he was maybe not ready for prime time, and they were right. They were right. All those people were right. They were really right.
That fight was incredible to watch. I couldn't wait to watch it, and it was everything I dreamed it could be.
I stand by it. That was my sleeper pick. I stand by that. I still stand by that, by the way.
It was fun. It was kind of hilarious. This is the only fight I want to see for Braxton
Chris Barnett will kill him.
Maybe.
Barnett will kill.
Just listening to the broadcast put over Braxton Smith, that Smith's athleticism was the best. The flag football abilities, just all of it. I loved it. I loved how they tried to put him over, and then Parker Porter just kind of did the damn thing. I'm obviously not going Parker Porter versus Sergey Pavlovich, although that would be the funniest thing ever as like the co-main event to John Jones versus Stipe Miocic. I'll tell you what, man, I was incredibly impressed, and I'm not surprised by this, by the Octagon debut of Ikram Aliskerov. That dude should have never been on the Contender Series. Absolute travesty that he had to fight on the friggin' Contender Series to get into the UFC. This man is going to be a problem at 185 pounds. An absolute problem. So I'm ready to just chuck him right in there with that goalpost. Get him right in there. Brad Tavares right away. Woo. Second fight, get him right in there with Brad Tavares. I think this guy's the real deal. I said it after his Contender Series fight. I said even before his Contender Series fight. This guy is going to shake things up at 185, and he could do so very quickly. And guess what? He's got Khamzat Chimaev to put him over like Rover, because Khamzat has been saying since day one that Aliskerov was the toughest guy he's ever fought. Even said that after the Gilbert Burns fight. Aliskerov is still the toughest guy I've ever shared the octagon with. That's the only loss in Aliskerov's career was to Khamzat Chimaev. Got laid out with an uppercut. This dude's a problem. So let's go. Give him Brad Tavares and see how he does.
You mentioned Khamzat. Also, Islam just like 35 minutes ago just shared a picture of him and Ikram. Looks like they're from either training or from a competition. So this guy has worked with some killers, and he is a killer. I think he was like a 2-1 favorite going in, which is pretty good against Phil Haas, who like hasn't, again, he's not like a top 20 middleweight, but has had a pretty good like career, pretty respectable guy. So I think to be favored against him in your debut says a lot. And yeah, look, he took care of business. He did what he's supposed to do as a favorite. I don't know what the middleweight division has kind of got some sneaky like guys who don't have the UFC experience yet. But you could see a lot of these guys contending for the title very, very soon. Obviously, I'm talking about Bo Nickel as well. And then Kyle Bahalio just made a big statement. So if you're Izzy, I hope he doesn't feel compelled to move up to like 205, because stick around a little bit. Maybe face Trickus if he manages to beat Robert Whittaker somehow, or do that trilogy bout with Whittaker, and then see if one of these guys shakes out, because he has a lot of ways to build his legacy at 185, and I'd love to see him just stick around there and fight Bo Nickel someday, fight Iskram someday. He's got options.
Denny Kappas woke up pretty grumpy today. Just winners fight losers in this sport, man. That's what happens. Happens in the UFC all the time.
He also said he hates Friends Forever, the song. So
I mean, that tells you everything you need to know.
Denny,
iconic song.
Danny, I hope you're okay. That's all.
Yeah, I hope you're all right. Have a cup of coffee. Here, I'll pour one up. Cheers to you, Denny.
We're here for you, Denny. We're
sipping my Dunkin' Donuts black iced coffee. Ooh. Here we go. All right, let's get crazy here.
Oh God, let him know.
It's melee time. Get all your suggestions in now. We're gonna go through as many as we can over the next probably 15 minutes or so. Pro Fights Info already gave us a list, ready to go. Sorry if these have been discussed. Fights to make: Aljo versus O'Malley, Cejudo versus Merab, Belal versus Champ, Gilbert versus loser of Colby Leon, Yan Wei Li, Jourdain versus Barboza. Jourdain did call for that fight. Gracie versus Ryan Hall.
Yeah,
I feel like that's
the one
going to be
everyone,
a very popular fight.
everyone was talking about it after. Oh, sorry. I should say, let me end the poll so people can focus on sending in their matchmaking suggestions. Should Henry Cejudo continue fighting after UFC 288? 70% yes. People are happy to see Triple C back, and they want more. He performed. He looked great in the main event.
Tristan, Rolando Bedoya, he looked really good too versus Lyman Good. Lyman Good's been out doing some acting. He's getting acting roles. He hasn't fought in a while, but if he's ready to come back, I'm down. Diego Lopes versus Billy Cute. Oh God, that's a fun ass fight.
That's a good choice.
Chaos Williams versus Jeremiah Wells. I like that one too.
Yep.
I like that one as well.
Good stuff, Tristan. Good stuff as always, Tristan.
Where are we here? It's tough navigating with this whole thing. Let's see. Where are we at? I think I'm caught up. Okay. Ryan Hall, Chrome Gracie in a boxing match. Okay.
So influencer boxing. Let's go. Let's do it.
Aaron wants to know, do we feel any better about O'Malley's chances against Aljamain Sterling after last night?
I don't know if that's implying that Aljo had he had a bit of a tough time with Cejudo, but that's more credit to Cejudo than anything. Again, I'm not a Cejudo fan. I think people should know I'm not a Cejudo fan. Like just his act. I don't like the whole King of Cringe thing. I know that's the point. I know it's like, oh, you're not supposed to like us a King of Cringe. Well, that's just dumb. Unless you're you're really creating an act that like draws an act that people hate and draws money, then great. I don't think people are spending pay-per-view money because like, oh, I love his cringe act, I'm going to spend $80 for pay-per-view. Like, no, that's not a thing. But again, the whole sorry, I got distracted. Tangent. Credit to Cejudo, he looked great. That's had nothing to do with Sterling, I think, being off or not looking like good. If anything, I think it's a huge credit to Sterling that he was able to deal with the wrestling, able to deal with I think Cejudo's a really good boxer, just able to deal with all this stuff and eke out a win that was close, but not like super controversial. I would still pretty heavily favor Aljo, though I said the same thing when O'Malley fought Jan, and I thought O'Malley looked awesome against Jan. So I don't know.
Big Capper and Alex McAdam were kind of on the same page here. Favola versus Dan Hooker, win or lose. And Big Capper says Drew Dober versus Jalen Turner after Dan Hooker, win or lose. So, I mean, kind of a bizarro world friends forever there, but we got there.
We didn't even talk about Drew Dober and Matt Favola, which was most people sort of pick for the obvious prelim standout. It definitely lived up to it as far as an exciting finish goes. Matt Favola, a weird guy to place now because I had Drew Dober in top 15. I kind of decided to keep him in there. I just, again, his 2022 run was so strong. I don't feel the need to like penalize him so badly for a first round knockout loss. It happens, I guess, when you have Drew Dober style. But at the same time, Favola also has like these weird losses. Like he got knocked out in 7 seconds by Terrence McKinney, and I have him way above Terrence McKinney now. Huge MMA math problem because Dober beat McKinney, but McKinney beat Favola. So listen, guys, you figure it out however you want. Rankings are dumb anyway. So yeah, I didn't pick him as my wild card because I really wasn't sure which direction to go to. I don't know if you have some idea, Mike, for what you would have done with Matt Favola if you had made him your wild card pick.
Give him Arman Sarukian and see how he does.
Didn't he fought him already?
Oh, that's right. He fought him on short notice.
Yeah.
Never mind.
Yeah.
Matush Gamrot, someone like that.
Wow.
Or we go Matty Favola versus Rafael Fiziev because there's no way that's not a blast. Because I would have gone Dober Fiziev had Dober won the fight. I mean, I see a lot of, obviously, Favola wants Patty Pimblett. I saw some Dober patties. We don't know what Patty's doing. It doesn't seem like he's coming back anytime soon. Seems like that injury is pretty bad. So he said, recent interviews, he doesn't even know if he's going to be able to fight this year. So I'm sure Favola and or Dober are going to want to come back a little bit sooner than that. So yeah, I don't know if we can really matchmake for Patty at this moment, but be interesting. Andrade versus Verna Jandiroba. Not a bad idea. Verna.
Did she called for that. She did? Call for that? She did. I don't know. She called. I'm sorry, guys. I'm blanking on here. She called for a fight with someone. Obviously her fight would have been before the. Who did she call for a fight for? I'm sorry, guys. She did call for a big name. It probably wasn't Andrade because again, her win was before that. What did she call for?
Lemos?
Maybe it was Lemos.
Yeah, Lemos gonna have to do something. She
could also get the title shot. Again, I think Jan jumped over her. I think Jan jumped over her with this win, but I can't remember who John Joe called out. John Joe had a good fight suggestion. Guys, YouTube comments if you want to refresh my memory, please do. You guys are always on top of things. But yeah, I don't mind Virna versus Jessica Andrade. Yeah, it'd be a great fight.
Yeah, J-Fish, Frevola versus Vazeev, Lopes versus Lerone Murphy. Wouldn't hate it. I think Murphy kind of deserves a little bit better, if we're being honest. Not that that's disrespectful to Diego Lopes because he looked great, but Lerone is unbeaten in the UFC and probably deserves like a fringe top 15 guy at worst. And Aliskerov versus Joe Pyfer. That would be a very interesting fight.
Yeah.
I love the call it a Bo Nickel too. Love the call it a Bo Nickel. Very smart.
Versus Dustin Jacob. Was this not booked at some point or already happened? Am I crazy?
Did they fight?
No, I'm super crazy. It's not.
Yeah. That's a great matchup though. Nzechukwu looked incredible last night.
Thank you, Gerard Biagin. That's a great matchup.
It's a good puck. Jourdain versus Belal.
Yeah, I like Algio for. What did I want Algio for? Oh, I think I wanted him for like someone who fought recently. Someone who fought last. My memory is just absolutely fantastic today, by the way. Padilla?
No sleep.
I think I was like Padilla or something like that. Yeah, I don't know. No sleep. Celtics playing. Celtic, not the Celtic.
Yeah, thought I heard an S.
Nobody cares about that.
Oh, it was an apostrophe S. It was an apostrophe S.
Celtic playing.
Ooh, I kind of like this one from Pro Fights Info. Kennedy Nzechukwu versus Azamat Murzakanov.
And Murzakanov again. Another guy coming up.
That's a good one. Kennedy versus Nikita Krylov, AK.
Is Krylov not fighting someone? Because that makes a lot of sense if he's not. That makes a ton of sense.
Yeah, I think a lot of people threw out Krylov's name to fight Alex Pereira at the move at 205, but I don't know if he's got anything booked.
Great job by Kennedy and Nzechukwu to make the most of that opportunity. Because if he just wins a decision against Devin Clark, we're probably not talking about it much. But he's showing off like how much he's evolved. He's snagging that finish against a guy who's not like super easy to put away. He's I think that was his first. Oh no, sorry, I was saying no. I was gonna thought it was his first submission loss. It's not first in the UFC. No, not even. I'm way off. He gets submitted all the time. Either way, Kennedy Nzechukwu, great job getting that submission. Great job.
Some Frevola Moicano action. That'd be an easy fight to book.
Yep,
that'd be an easy fight to book. Same management team. Shout out to Oren Hodak. Another Kennedy versus Volkan Ozdemir.
Yeah, listen, Kennedy's did a lot for his stock last night. This was I don't want to say it was a fight I wasn't looking forward to. I just didn't think it would have any major implications for either guy's career. I guess this is the definition of a real sleeper because I certainly wasn't thinking about it much. I don't know how much fans were talking about it. If there was a big buzz for it, I must have missed it. But yeah, getting the finish is very important. That's not the be all end all in the MMA and in the UFC, but huge difference between him winning even a convincing decision over Devin Clark and getting a finish. It's kind of the problem we have with Movsar now, Mike, is the guy the one thing he's really missing too is a finish. He has not finished anyone in the UFC. And it's not like he was a major finisher before the UFC either. He's kind of always been a guy who wins decisions, which is fine. You can be an exciting fighter and go to decision a lot. A lot of people have made careers out of it. But I think when you're trying to get a title shot, you really need to put a stamp on it. And great that he was an awesome back and forth fight with Diego Lopes. That's cool. But it looks a bit weird because there was a guy coming in on short notice, an experienced guy, but a guy that doesn't have that literally zero UFC experience. And then you still couldn't get that finish. 7-0 now, I want to say, in the UFC. No finishes. It's a tough look. They're important. And it sucks because some divisions it's easier to find them than others, but I mean, you got to find a way.
While the sport can have the highest of highs, AK, it also gives us the lowest of lows, and things can happen very quickly, and momentum can shift, career trajectory rise in the drop of a hat. And for Marina Rodriguez, main events a fight, loses, is the favorite on the prelims against a tough fighter, loses again, and Oscar Lara drops a suggestion that would probably seem at first glance to break your heart a little bit, but I can totally see this fight being made. And boy, would this be a tough draw for Marina Rodriguez. Tatiana Suarez.
It's Oscar. That's a great pick. It's a great pick because Tatiana, for one thing, her most recent fight, her comeback fight, was at 125. Not that people have any questions of whether she can make 115 or if she's still a contender at 115. I think all of us on the MMA Fighting's rankings panel, we all just kind of agreed, like, let's just rank her at 115. I don't know if any of us ranked her at 125. We kind of know she's going to come down. She has a body of work that's like, she's obviously a top 10 strawweight. And for Marina, I mean, Mike, it is a tough straw to draw, but at the same time, for someone who has had some, excuse me, guys, some bad luck with her contender hopes in her recent appearances, that gets her right back in, right? If she can upset Tatiana Suarez, I think Suarez goes into that fight like at least minus 300, minus 250. But if you're Marina, you really need to find a way to get back in there, because it looked like we were talking about her for so long, Mike, as someone who deserved a title shot and wasn't getting it. At the same time, the circumstances just didn't work out for her. Like, there was all these rematch options that came up for the champions and other storylines that just didn't fit. I talked about needing a finish. She just doesn't have like a lot of signature finishes. And now she's on a 2-fight win streak, and it seems like that title shot is so far away now. But she beats Tatiana Suarez. She's back in there. So yeah, that's a really good suggestion.
Dirty Reg says BS stoppage in the Andrade fight. I just watched it. Look, I think GC kind of said that during the watch party. He thought the stoppage was a little fast, and maybe it was, but that wasn't going to get much better. Like, she was going to get hammer fisted in the face for another 10 seconds, and the fight was going to get stopped anyway. So I don't have a huge issue with it, but I get it. Andrade is tough. She's a wily vet. I kind of agree. You probably should have given her a little bit more time to try to come back from that, but I don't think it was going to get much better, and it is what it is. I've seen way worse stoppages than that one.
Was that Jason Herzog?
I don't remember seeing Jason Herzog.
Oh, let me do a quick. Sorry, guys. I was
on this card at all. Now that you mention it.
Oh, it was Vitor. It was Xiaolin. Xiaolin was the
yes.
Xiaolin in there. Yes. Vitor Ribeiro was the official. So this is not his first time. I believe he's done a UFC card before. So he has. Yeah. So I don't think it's like, I don't think we want to pull the where'd they get this guy from? Like, he's an experienced fighter. He's he's refereed before, but I understand if people are like, who Vitor Ribeiro? It's like, yeah, that Vitor Ribeiro.
Kennedy versus Ryan Spann, but you know what? Those at Fortis MMA get to watch these two guys beat the hell out of each other every single day because they're teammates. So I don't think they're going to fight each other. Aliskerov versus Andre Muniz, sure.
Yeah, I can see that. Yeah.
Parker Porter versus Bo Usman.
Love it. I like it.
You like it?
I don't know. I just like the visual. Though I was gonna say, comparing physiques, Parker Porter's looking pretty good. He dropped like, how much lighter was he for this fight than his last fight?
Almost 20 pounds. I think.
Yeah, because he was 249. Did he usually came at the limit like 265, 266?
I think he was like 260 something in his last fight, but you could tell, like,
yeah,
even if he just looked in better shape.
Wow, 15 pounds lighter. That's pretty good. That's not bad. Could we see light heavyweight Parker Porter someday? Like,
I don't know. Parker Porter, Augusto Sakai, if they can re-sign Augusto,
which
give
they
him back
should.
that Vegas residency, buddy.
Give me my fat Elvis Augusto Sakai Vegas residency, damn it. Mike, let me quickly read because I had someone who hadn't sent to me before. I do like to read first timers at QP Crisp on Twitter. First time sending pics, long time listener. Hopefully having the best day anyone could ever possibly have. Oh, thank you. Same. That goes out to you, Mike, and all the listeners as well. Aljo, Sean O'Malley, Belal Kamaru. Mike, that's not going to happen, right?
No.
Okay. Yan Xiaonan versus Amanda Lemos. I guess that would be if Rose somehow stepped into a title shot. You have them fight for number one contender, but I don't think they need to do that. Movsar Evloev, Giga, Charles Jourdain, Jack Shore, Matt Frivola, Damir Ismagulov, Kendi Nzechukwu, Dustin Jacoby, another one of those, and Chaos Williams versus Li Jingliang. Thanks, QP Crisp. Thank you for sending it.
Yeah, Dirty Reg is, just really believing that this was a bad stoppage, and I'm not saying you're terribly wrong about that, but we've seen worse, and what else can you say? Jessica Andrade didn't seem to protest it at all, so certainly aesthetically in the aftermath, the Drew Dober stoppage, like at least how Drew reacted to it, that was a lot of protest. Jessica Andrade didn't seem to protest at all. So, and even the broadcasters. So, What could he do? What could he do? Saw some Chaos Williams versus Kevin Holland. Thoughts? I think Kevin Holland is probably going to get someone a little higher. I like Kevin Holland versus the upcoming fight between Daniel Rodriguez versus Ian Gary. I kind of like that fight.
The winner.
The winner of that fight, yes.
Yeah, I'm into that. Yeah, Chaos Williams. Yeah, listen, he's looked good at 170. Fernando Padilla. Oh no, sorry, Fernando Padilla. That was last week. Rolando Bedoya gave a very tough fight in his UFC debut, but hey, credit to Chaos. Chaos was coming back from a layoff too, I believe. Right? Chaos hadn't fought in.
That was almost a year.
A year off, So, and Bedoya, but also had not fought in a while. But I'm just, but still, good to see you. Sometimes you got to gut out those weird wins. Sometimes you got to gut out those weird wins. And yeah, maybe he's not I'm not saying Chaos Williams is a top 25 guy, but maybe he's inching his way towards one of those spots.
Yeah. All right, I think we're done here. I got to get out of this, at least check out of my room. I still got to continue to work here. But next week, I couldn't be more excited about this.
Holy cow.
ABC. And you know what that means? When the UFC's on ABC and they're on the East Coast, that means we get early fights. 11:30 a.m. Eastern is when it all kicks off in Charlotte, North Carolina. I'm so excited about this. 11:30 a.m. prelims, 3 p.m. main card for UFC Charlotte or UFC on ABC4. Jairzinho Rosenstrike versus Jailton Almeida, the main event. Anthony Smith versus Scotty Walker.
So, Mike, by the time people are settling in on the East Coast for a dinner, they could randomly be tuning into ABC, just flipping channels. Oh, ABC. Oh, cage fighting. I've heard of this on ABC. That's kind of cool. Just put this on, and they could be catching the best heavyweight in the world randomly.
That's the guy who's actually going to fight Sergey Pavlovich next.
That's fantastic. I love to hear it.
Yes. Jailton Almeida. D-Rod versus Ian Machado Gary, Mackenzie Dern, Angela Hill, Tim Means, Alex Morono. That's the main card. Matt Brown, Court McGee. We got Carl Williams versus Chase Sherman. Cody Stamen against Douglas Silva de Andrade. Carlos Ulberg versus the Shogun Destroyer, Ihor Potieria. Natan Levy versus Pete Rodriguez. Jian Kim versus Mandy Boehm. Gabe Green, Brian Battle, and Jessica Rose Clark versus Tainara Lisboa. That is your UFC Charlotte card as of right now. And again, I'll say this again. I'm so excited. So excited. 11:30 a.m. Eastern time, start time for UFC Charlotte. So thank you very much, everybody. You're the best. We'll get this up on the podcast network as soon as possible and back next week for a normal show. And AK, this card's going to end so early. We could probably record Otno like Saturday night.
And we might.
And we might just do that.
We
might just do that just because I want you to be well rested for the Boston Celtics probably playing next Sunday because you're a big Celtics fan.
Speaking of which, as of this recording, I know people will hear on the podcast later. They'll know the results already, but Celtic is up 1-0 with about 15 minutes to go in the match. So hopefully I by the time you hear this, guys, I'll be celebrating Celtic Scottish Premiership title.
Well, enjoy the rest of that and have a good day, everybody. We appreciate you. Back next week to recap UFC Charlotte from matchmaking perspective right here on to the next one, the podcast. Good day.